basically we have to learn how media companies get started, because if we know how media companies get started, then we actually have a chance of making a media company. And that's the whole reason I'm watching this How the Daily Wire Got Started video. Basically, I'm going to be doing a reaction to this video with my knowledge on the Daily Wire. Let's get started watching the video and go. Oh my gosh, where the heck is my mouse?
Well, one of the things that actually occurs to me in this conversation is you actually saw an opportunity in me first, and it was these small opportunities to do this visual content, and then later I started to see an opportunity for you. But it is kind of funny. I always think about the second part of that story.
And one thing I'm going to point out right now is that the whole Jeremy Boring, Ben Shapiro dynamic is that um, they had their roles switched around, flip flopped. You see how I did that with my hands? The frame rate couldn't even keep up with how fast my hands were going. Anyways, Ben Shapiro was supposed to be the guy behind the scenes. Jeremy Boring was supposed to be the guy in front of the scenes, and then they flip flopped that around and switched it because specifically Ben Shapiro actually ended up having more charisma. And so that's just interesting. Anyways, let's keep going.
Because it's the one where all the success came from. But the first part of the story is central to it, which is you, out of some sort of altruism or something, wanted me to have opportunities that
Well,
I
I
was.
saw a talented guy, and I saw that the talent, you're kind of spinning your wheels. And so it was like I wanted to make sure, as behind the scenes, I've quoted many times. For me, a key principle is Hyman Roth. I always make money for my friends. And so
And this is actually a really good point, because what you're going to see in this entire video is that the Daily Wire was started out of a network. It wasn't like, the funny part is you look at it and you think it's just started by one person, but it's actually started by a network of relationships that they built over time. And that network ended up helping fund the company, helping like start the company, grow the company until it was cash flow positive. Let's keep going.
quoting the elderly Jewish gangster from The Godfather who ends up very poorly. But in any case, we started working together, and then sort of the first time that we formally worked together, where we actually formed a company together and we actually started working together, was with Truth Revolt, and this is now circa 2013.
Now, what's interesting about the Truth Revolt is that this was the nonprofit conservative media company that they started first. And the interesting part is it completely failed, did not do well, but it was the starting point for the company that ended up blowing up. So, just another good lesson in failures. You're actually going to see at the very end of this video something interesting about failures. So, stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
So
Well, you had given me one of the best pieces of business advice I ever got. And at the same time, another friend of mine named Frank gave me a very similar piece of advice. And it was sort of, God wanted me to hear it twice. You said it much more colorfully than he did, which is you said something along the lines of, Jeremy, you are very good at pissing, but you are very bad at knowing which way the wind blows. If you would just turn and let reality work for you instead of you always working against reality, I think you'd have some success. And that really resonated with me. At that time, I was also realizing something about you, which was that you needed to be famous and that you needed a platform from which to influence the political conversation. And I thought that I had discovered it because, again, by way of Andrew Breitbart and some of our Friends of Abe connections, I'd become pals with a lot of the board members at the David Horowitz Freedom Center. David, former leftist, becomes conservative, and I saw a lot of commonality between you and David. Both fighters, not both highly intellectual, both great writers, but fundamentally fighters, not think tank guys. Both Jewish, both part of the LA scene, both with a rich interest in culture. The difference, of course, being that he's 50 years older than you are. And I could see that there was going to come a time where David would need to step down and he would want his legacy, the Freedom Center, to be passed on. I thought, well, there isn't a better guy in the country than Ben for that job. So behind the scenes, I started meeting with board members who are also part of Friends of Abe and planting seeds about this and getting buy-in. And this goes on for maybe 18 months of really getting people to see that you could be the future of the Freedom Center. And then they were working David.
And the interesting part about the Freedom Center is that it was, I believe, a conservative-focused organization um, that was founded by, I also believe, somebody who ended up investing in the Daily Wire, that David Horowitz individual. Once again, network effect that helped the Daily Wire's beginnings.
Behind the scenes until one day, and this is the way all good ideas are, right? One day it's David's idea, not mine, that you could be the heir at the Freedom Center, and he calls you and gives you this opportunity with Truth Revolt. And you and I at that time create, to your point, we created our first company within.
Let me show you how we do stuff around here.
Actually, my department uses Monday.com, so I'm good.
Work man.
Okay, first of all, I am so sorry about that advertisement. I thought that would not pop out at all, because it hadn't popped up at all when I previously recorded this. So 100% sorry for the advertisement. I guess we might see another advertisement. I hope not. I hope not. Oh my gosh, I so hope not. I might be able to edit that out, but anyways, let's keep going.
Within the Freedom Center.
Within the Freedom Center.
And it actually saw some initial pretty significant success.
Absolutely.
And we learned some really important lessons from that one. Among those lessons were luck is not a business strategy, because we had designed a website and very much we were hunting for drudge links at that time, which was.
I don't know about you, but the quote, luck is not a business strategy, really resonated for me. So just, and how it resonates for me is that, hoping that luck happens to you ain't a good business strategy. Rather, what you're going to see is that they really set themselves up. They put themselves in a good position to be successful. And luck tends to help those that put themselves in a situation of good opportunities.
Was one way that conservatives would try to generate traffic off of no budget was if you get a link from Drudge, it explodes your traffic.
Right.
And so we would try to get links from Drudge, and we realized that sometimes the gods were generous and sometimes they were not. And the other thing that we learned is that you have to find an audience that is capable of understanding the business pitch. So,
well, this is when you gave me my nickname, I believe, which is the Stupid Whisperer. This is because you and I would always pitch people our ideas, and you would come in and you would Ben Shapiro all over them. You would use Harvard words at 2x, like you are a podcast turned up to 2x just in regular life,
right.
In terms of the speed of your, and these people would just sort of look at you with these blank, doe-eyed expressions, and then the Stupid Whisperer would come in, and
soft Texas lilt.
Yeah, that Texas
Lot
drawl
slower.
would come out real slow. Sock puppets, and I would explain your ideas to them, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah."
It was very frustrating. I mean, I remember walking out being like, I don't understand. They understand what he's saying, but they have no idea. It was like I was speaking Swahili.
He's barely using English, and they understand him. They don't understand anything.
But it turned out that no matter whether it was me or whether it was the Stupid Whisperer, there were certain people who were just not capable of receiving these ideas, and we both know who we're talking about here.
This is when you wrote our business plan on a cocktail napkin.
This is. Now, to be fair, you came up with the business plan. So Jeremy was the one who cracked the code of not only, sort of we need to invest in making people in our movement, I mean, not just me, but generally, more famous. We need to actually use the tools at our disposal. And you were the first person to really discover the magic of social media and how important social media was. Because most of us were spending our days, whittling away on Twitter.
Yeah.
But you were the first person who said, wait a second, there's a whole other world of social media and we really need to get involved. So at this point, you can take over the narrative.
Now, what I really want to touch on here is that does social media help them out? And that was like the core of Ben Shapiro's compliment to his co-CEO. But the thing that was really interesting to me was that they invested in making other people famous, right? Because business isn't just about making one person successful or one person rich, but rather it's about helping other people and developing other people into that richness, into making them famous.
Yeah, I mean, the idea was we should be marketing first, right? And social media presents the opportunity to do that. And of course, the Freedom Center and therefore Truth Revolt were a nonprofit. They were always struggling to figure out how to pay for us, because one of the problems in conservative nonprofits is that no matter how successful a particular initiative is, its ultimate success is determined by whether or not people will keep giving you money for it. And unfortunately, when you go to the same donors year after year, you have to give them something new. So we had a lot of success in that first year or so of Truth Revolt. But what was the story we were going to take to donors next? And I said, well, here's an idea. Instead of taking them year after year, what if we had kind of a for-profit model within the nonprofit universe where we could use ad revenue and the enormous traffic available to us through marketing on social to pay for all of this, and then we're not beholden to the donors. And now, even the stupid whisperer could not talk slow enough for certain people to understand it. And we're in this big meeting one day, and this very wealthy, very elderly benefactor of conservative think tanks said, essentially, he said, I need you to explain this to me in even simpler terms.
And we'd explained it about 7 times already.
Oh, yeah. And Ben turns over a cocktail napkin, takes a pen, and you drew an F for Facebook.
Well, it was okay. So it was $,
$, okay.
arrow,
$, arrow.
F for Facebook,
F for Facebook.
arrow, website, arrow back to $, right? And that was, and I said, this is our business.
This is our business plan.
And yeah,
they
And
fired us.
Yeah, they defunded us. They fired you. I quit in solidarity.
That's fair. They fired me.
Yeah. Well, they still wanted me to stick around so they could, pretend that I was still associated, but I had been relegated off to the gulag somewhere. Wasn't actually given the death sentence. I was just sort of gulag, and I was like, okay, that's not what we're doing. So instead,
The funny thing is, we had both bought houses like 1 month before this.
Well, I mean, it bodes very poorly for our boat.
Dude, such a bummer that they both bought houses. Like, as somebody who's also thinking about buying a property, just, it's one of those things you try to just buy a property that's, when you have a stable source of income. And then, of course, right? Oh my gosh, out of nowhere, the freaking opportunity drops away and the funding goes away too. But obviously, happy ending, they have a successful company.
Because literally every time in our careers we have bought houses, something cataclysmic has happened.
That's
like
fair.
Nearly almost immediately. So at that point, we decide that we're going to take that business plan and go to market.
Yeah.
And you were really the driving force here because you found the people who decided to actually take a flyer on us.
Well, the third part of our triad, right? Caleb, our business partner, co-CEO of the company. I'd been working with Caleb at that time. He was working with a high net worth family out of Texas. They're trying to get involved in culture, and like Mark Masters and many others before, through whatever political connection.
So what was really important here was that they're people that provided money. I'm really sure the people that provided money were interested also in getting in culture. So they found people that were interested in getting in culture, which is so important because the initial investors have to have their own desire to put money in the bucket, baby, because the money ain't going in the bucket unless people want to put money in the bucket. Let's keep going.
Connections, they got connected to me, and then I tried to talk them out of spending their money on culture because I wanted them to maintain some of their money. And during this period of time, I'd really hit it off with Caleb, and when we lost that job at the Freedom Center, I called him and said, listen, I know you're trying to get involved in culture. I said, I think there is a path for conservatives to create entertainment, but I think you have to go the roundabout way. I basically gave him the same plan that I had pitched to you and then to others, which was we need a marketing mechanism, a marketing and distribution mechanism that allows us.
And there's the big thing that the Daily Wire is actually a marketing mechanism, which is kind of the exact same thing I'm trying to do with building this out, is that I kept thinking about different businesses to start, and they all had marketing as a either second priority or first priority of the business, media company as a second priority or the first priority of the business. And so you can see that the Daily Wire is almost a marketing company that poses itself as a conservative news outlet. And that's the interesting part, is that they don't say they're a marketing company at all, but they really are a marketing company. Whoa, right?
us to actually put an audience on the target, because Hollywood will never cooperate. Even if you manage to make a great film, they'll never cooperate. They'll make it very difficult for you. I said, I think with Ben and with what we've been doing at Truth Revolt Evolved with this cocktail napkin business plan, that we can make something that's capable of marketing whatever we produce thereafter for this particular audience. And he got the vision right away, thank God, because I don't know how we were going to pay our mortgages. You probably had some savings at that time because you're a more rational fellow than I am. I had a nicer car, though. Fortunately, Caleb quickly got the vision, and he went to the high net worth family with whom he was working at that time, and they took a risk on us. They gave us they committed to give us $7.5 million to start the Daily Wire. We didn't take the money up front. We didn't want it that way. We wanted for them to just pay the expenses of the company month after month up to the $7.5 million mark. And at month 14, we were $4.7 million in, and we became cash flow positive. We never took the rest of that money, and we've never gone back and taken any money since.
Obviously, that meant that there was more money, more equity for their company. Good for them.
I mean, since then, we've grown this company off of that cocktail napkin business plan. Now, it's fair to say, and I think Caleb would interrupt here if he were here, and to say, it got a little bit more sophisticated than the cocktail napkin.
It did. And it's amazing when we look back at the original projections, which places we thought would be centers of revenue
That's
and
right.
which places we did not. So certain places that we thought would be centers of revenue certainly are centers of revenue. But one area that we had no idea was going to be a center of revenue was the actual podcast revenue.
That's right.
Like I look back at that business plan, and what we had allocated for the amount of revenue from the podcast was minimal compared to how successful the podcast became. So it just shows
Right.
you, all you can do is sort of plan for the possibility of success, and then you push where there's actual mush, right? You push where there's actual give.
I responded to a tweet from Cernovich a few weeks ago. He every now and then, when he isn't posting politics, he'll actually post kind of aspirational business ideas, and they're quite good. I can't remember exactly what he had tweeted, but it was something about success and failure in business. And I responded with what I think is the greatest lesson I've learned in this journey that we've been on, which is that your success in business, ultimately, it doesn't come down to the quality of your plan. It doesn't come down to your ability to avoid catastrophe. It doesn't come down to your ability to systematize success. All of those things matter, but none of them are what determine ultimately long-term success. Long-term success in business is just your ability to fail, maneuver, and keep moving.
I hope you.
And so I love that last quote in terms of fail, maneuver, keep moving is a really good thing, because it talks about just, at the end of the day, all you can do is take action, right? You got to take action in order to fail. Maneuvering is taking action. Keeping moving is taking action as well. And so it's take action, take action, take action. But in terms of failure, maneuver, keep moving, and figuring it out. Anyways, that was my reaction to how the Daily Wire got its start, got its first money, that first 4.5 million. Ooh, that is a nice amount of money. You know what I mean? Anyways, by the way, I was doing those whole, you saw me doing those reactions to how they were talking, and that was just me trying to add a little extra content while you were watching. So next time I'll try to introduce that concept, because when you saw me doing it, it was probably a little weird, what the heck is this guy doing, right? Reacting to the video and stuff. But in general, that was me reacting to the video, you know what I mean? So anyways, I'm going to try to introduce that concept so it's not as weird coming out of the gates. But also I'm trying to just give you guys something extra to watch, right? Something extra to look at, listen to. Well, frankly, just look at it, because we're just listening when I'm reacting to that stuff kind of thing. Anyways, that's all. Peace out.